I've been gardening really all my life. When I grew up, my dad and his dad were big gardeners, and I remember when I was a little kid, my dad would dig out a plot, and we had a huge backyard when we were growing up, and he'd dig out a plot and let me plant whatever I wanted to plant there. But then in turn, I had to help him with the garden, and I remember hauling buckets of water to pour around the tomato plants and picking peppers and the apple trees we had in the backyard, and all sorts of really cool stuff, and then canning with the family when we were picking stuff. So I've always gardened. When we lived in the city, my wife and I, we had a community garden plot that was a lot of fun. And when we first moved in here, and this was really essentially a swamp, but we dug out the whole back, and each year just planted more and more and more, to the point that we were planting around here, around to the side and around to the back. But we just wanted to kind of formalize it, make it look nice, and make sure that we were getting right in the sun. So this was a great approach to giving us lots of garden space and being able to garden essentially year round, but also having a really nice living space out here too.
Yeah. And you're talking a lot about things that you're doing with the food, pickling it, obviously eating it. So did cooking come first, or did gardening come first?
I don't know. I think which came first, right? I've always enjoyed eating and cooking, and I've always enjoyed gardening. And like I said, when I grew up, we had a huge garden. We had big apple and pear trees in the backyard. So my parents were always canning and cooking. I was fortunate that I didn't appreciate it at the time. I was always jealous of the kids in school that got to go to McDonald's for breakfast every day, but my parents were sending me to school with fresh made meals and things like that. So I've kind of gone down that path, and now I take a lot of pleasure in cooking. And it is truly a community thing. And even people I work with, we talk about gardening, we exchange seeds, we exchange some of the things that we've grown. It's individually, it's a very productive and calming way to spend your time. My dad loves to point out, the studies that he reads about people who garden living longer, and loves to talk about his dad who lived into his mid-90s, never worked out, but was always working in the yard and digging and things like that. So it's great exercise and great to be, surrounded by so much life and green things, if you will. But there is really, I think a sense of community around the people who garden and enjoy this kind of stuff. I see a lot of people, more and more people in the neighborhood doing it too, okay. which makes me happy. I think it's nowadays everyone's so busy, and there's so much overly processed food and so much reliance on pre-made meals and things like that, that when you can kind of stop and take a breath, and it's not hard. It's really easy, especially when you have a layout like this.